Breaking news, guys. Wanted to give you guys an update on what's going on with the Philadelphia aircraft that crashed, and it's not looking good. Now, this is on the back of, keep in mind, 72 hours ago. Within the last 72 hours, there have been 2 airplane crashes, okay? And I'm going to be very honest with you. The Washington, D.C. airplane crash that, some reports are saying that the airplane hit the helicopter. But really, if you look at the video, you can clearly see that the helicopter hit the aircraft, not the other way around. So, and we also have confirmed information from the FAA. I'm not going to go into all of the details from the FAA confirmation that we have received. If you really want to see that information, want to hear what we covered, you can check out our previous video, our previous live. We covered that information. But one thing that I do want to say is we're getting a lot of comments that are saying, well, this is what you voted for. And I just want to say, if that type of comment is implying that voting for Trump is going to give you airplane crashes, all of those people who are saying that have to be smoking some sort of narcotics, because that makes absolutely no sense. There's no one in their right mind that would have voted for any of this. And to blame Trump for the airplane crashes, something's got to be wrong with you people. Okay. By the way, appreciate you guys hitting the like button. Thank you so much for sharing the video. And for those of you guys who appreciate my candidness, right back at you. I appreciate you. Let's get an update here on the Philadelphia airplane crash, which really looked like a missile coming down. And a lot of people are saying that, hey, Ron, isn't it kind of odd that the airplane is coming down so aggressively? And I agree. But in addition, some folks are saying, didn't you notice that the aircraft seemed to have already been ablaze, like it was already on fire before it hit the ground? And I noticed that too. Let me know if you guys have noticed that as well. Where are you guys watching from? Are any of you guys in the Philadelphia area? Let me know. We also heard from the, I forget, governor, I think it's Ben Shapiro. I forget if he's the mayor or if he's the governor of the state of Pennsylvania. Anyway, we heard from Ben Shapiro earlier. This is wild. So I'm just going to let you guys hear this quick update from why the aircraft allegedly went down so fast. And there's a lot more breaking news we need to cover. So let's jump in.
Now to aviation attorney Sal Lagonia. Sal, thank you for being with us. Let's first talk about what we're seeing on the video. We'll keep playing this, and that is the actual missile-like descent that we just showed it on the screen, and then explosion when it hits. What can you glean from that video?
I think I've watched that video over and over, maybe about 100 times already now. And the one thing that really stands out is the angle of descent. That thing.
Real quick, notice this family here on the left. They're clearly coming out of their house. I don't know what they're about to do. The man in the back, he doesn't even realize that there is an aircraft in the air on its way down, about to change a whole lot of lives right behind him. His wife, or this woman that's coming out of the building, his mom, I don't know who she is, sister, friend. She doesn't realize it either. And it's this Ring camera that happened to catch. I'm assuming it's Ring, might be some other brand of security camera. But these folks don't even realize literally what is about to happen seconds from now. And the other thing that makes me wonder is, like, what was, there's 7,000 pounds of jet fuel that was on the plane, because they were planning on flying from, from Philadelphia to Missouri. And then from Missouri, they were supposed to be going to Mexico. One thing that I find very odd is how the media seems to be bringing up the nationalities of the people who are on board. And think about how they mentioned yesterday or day before yesterday, and repeatedly, the aircraft, the mid-air collision that took place between the helicopter and the American Airlines airplane. They mentioned how there were Russian passengers on there. I forget if the skaters, there was like a couple of ice skaters that were on the plane as well. I don't know if they happened to be the Russians, but I think it's rather interesting that they brought up the fact that there were Russians on that plane. And like, why did they happen to bring that up? That's the first thing. The second thing is, in this particular airplane crash here today in Philly, they brought it up again, the nationalities of the folks who were on the plane. In this case, there were folks who were from Mexico on the plane. Someone who was getting like some life-saving medical treatment, and this was supposed to be like a medical flight from Philadelphia to Missouri. There was a couple doctors on there, likely some nurses, and evidently around 7,000 pounds worth of jet fuel on the plane, which kind of explains why there was such a mushroom cloud shape explosion, kind of like a nuke had hit. But my point is I find it rather odd that the media finds it necessary to tell us about the nationalities of the folks who are on these planes. There's like 200 people on the Washington, D.C. Airplane crash, the Washington, D.C. American Airlines flight that went down, right? Why is it that we only heard about the Russians that were on that plane? Anybody know? Is there any reason why they didn't tell us about all the other nationalities of the other couple hundred people who are also on that plane? I feel like there's a reason why they are highlighting these particular nationalities, Russia and Mexico, right now. I'm just saying.
Thing is coming down, like you said, it's like a rocket. I first thought that may have been what hit Philadelphia until we realized it was an airplane. Airplanes, it's hard to do that with an airplane. As short and stubby as the wings are on a Learjet 55, you still have that ability to move forward with a plane on the most circumstances. The word catastrophic has been bandied about all night. That had to happen on board, whether it was catastrophic engine failure in both engines, in which case you would have expected that there would have been a mayday call, but listening to the tape of the tower, there was no mayday call, or some kind of fuel exhaustion or fuel, it wouldn't have been fuel exhaustion, but it would have been fuel contamination that took both engines out at the same time. And then we get into the type of aircraft it is. It's a medevac aircraft, which has oxygen on board. My understanding that the police have found at least one oxygen tank far away from the scene. That could indicate that it came out of the aircraft while the aircraft was descending from 1,600 feet. It wasn't up that high.
So he brings up some key findings in that particular report. And one of them is, what happened in the cockpit? Was this a situation like 9/11 where, someone was on the plane and tried to take over in the cockpit, and there was a fight that took place, there was a struggle that took place, and then all of a sudden someone just took the controls and pushed them forward, or maybe pushed the pilot forward, leaning against the controls to have the Learjet 55 make such an aggressive, 45-degree angle down with a full tank of gas, only in the air for less than a minute, approximately 4 miles away from the source airport, just doesn't make any sense. There are, some folks have reported that there were drones in the area before the aircraft crashed. It's really, really interesting how things are playing out. And to say that Trump is the reason for this, I just can't fathom the logic that people are using. If they're using any logic at all, they're just speaking emotionally, and they're just they're just mad that Trump won the election. But it is what it is. I don't see how this is Trump's fault. And why would Trump want this, right? Some folks are talking about cartels. There's a lot of suspicion. I'd hate to think that there's foul play here. I would hate to think that there's some malicious reason why the aircraft went down. But it is, I mean, you can't ignore the fact that this Philadelphia airplane crash happened just hours after an airplane and a helicopter collided midair. Like, when does that happen? When does that happen? Right? In America, we don't have these types of accidents with this degree of frequency. So something needs to answer. We need answers on what exactly caused this. We did get a big update from the FAA, Federal Aviation Authority. I covered that in a previous video. You can definitely check that out. If you haven't already, definitely hit the like button for the video, subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for sharing this video. But we are only tip of the iceberg. And I want to know from you guys if you think the Trump administration and Carolyn Levitt, White House, the brand new White House press secretary. Let me know if you think Trump and Carolyn Levitt will keep it straight, keep it 100 with us, and let us know what is really happening with these in terms of the details with regard to both of these airplane crashes.
Well, it was at 1,600 feet, then dropping, 2,400 feet per minute, as you said, shooting down to Earth like a rocket. You can almost see it's traveling at this high speed, full throttle, nose down. Do you see a possibility of maybe a stall, and would that result in that trajectory or no?
I agree with the other guests. I think that's highly unlikely. I think there's something much more going on before the plane starts down. It really is out of control. You could see it. You could see something venting out of the plane as it's coming down if you look closely. And then finally, when it hits the ground, it makes that huge explosion. Why? Because it's full of fuel. It's starting its trip back to Springfield. And so there's a lot of fuel on board, almost 1,000 gallons of fuel. And that's going to hit. Any spark is going to create an explosion, the likes of what we saw. And yeah, there were low cloud covers, so that's going to make the explosion look even worse. But frankly, you're looking at the amount of fires in the area. That's from the airplane hitting the ground so hard that its fuel is spraying out and hitting the mall, hitting the cars that are in the vicinity. And there were, I think, 3 houses also that were on fire.
This is so interesting because how far away is Philadelphia from the New Jersey drones? It's funny how they just kind of like brushed all of those drone concerns and conversations under the rug. Americans had questions about the drones and where were they coming from? Now, the Biden administration was telling us that, Iran and China have these, have some ships that were off the coast, and there was like a mothership where the drones were coming from. That's what we were told during the Biden administration. Later, we're told under the Trump administration that the FAA was aware of these drones, and either the FAA either owned the drones or they were aware of the drones. Basically, nothing to see here, folks, is what we were told. So it makes you wonder, is there any chance that the FAA had some drones in the air and maybe the drones got sucked into the turbines of the Lear 55 jet and it caused instant failure because, some of the drones we were told were about the size of, some of them were the size of a car. Some of them were the size of buses, SUVs. Now, I'm pretty sure a Learjet 55 probably doesn't even have a turbine big enough to have it be able to suck up a bus-sized drone. But I'm just saying, I'm pontificating at the moment and speculating on what it could be because we just don't know yet. And there's a lot that we've seen over the last several days and weeks. Remember the whole fog situation. Never really got a clear answer in terms of why the fog persisted for so long and was so dense. And there were people who reportedly, had difficulty breathing while in the environment where the fog was. There's a lot of weird stuff going on here. I'm just saying. And I'm not saying that they're all linked. I'm not saying that they're all somehow connected. But you have to pay attention to what's going on. And sometimes you have to connect the dots if the authorities won't necessarily let us know exactly what's happening. That's
so
all
would
I'm
you
saying.
say that the more likely scenario is that the airplane was in a nose down, at altitude with full throttles based on that velocity? And how could that happen?
Well,
What scenario? What?
That's a rather interesting scenario that is being discussed right now. Kind of like leans into the theory that I had. Well, what happened in the cockpit? Because if there was no Mayday call made, then that to me sounds like either they were impaired from being able to make a Mayday call, or their radios were somehow disabled. And if I'm not mistaken, and I got to double check the details, I could have sworn that there was a pilot and a co-pilot. So how is it possible that neither the pilot nor the co-pilot radioed in and said, "Mayday, Mayday, we're going down," or something to that effect? Right? So it's like the more we dig into this, the more questions we're coming up
What
with.
scenario would cause that?
Well, not necessarily full throttle, because if it's starting to fall, it's going to start picking up speed just from gravity. But what could cause it, there's a whole host of things. And as I went through my usual list of trying to figure out what could have happened normally, what do we normally see when we have an accident like this? There are so many things that I couldn't check off yet because we don't know enough quite yet. We've got to get more information. It's going to be hard in this case because the aircraft itself is consumed in the fire. The NTSB is going to have their work cut out for them. But one of the first things they'll do is they'll try to find the footprint of the airplane, find out where the left wing is, where the right wing is, where all these things landed. And where they land sometimes can help them determine how fast it was coming down and how much force there was used prior to the descent that we saw.
Yeah. Well, I want to give an update. The mayor of Philly said they don't have any information on the fatalities. The mayor says everyone should stay away from the scene. She confirmed what we all know, that we lost an aircraft. We don't have any further information. If you see debris, call 911, which I think is good advice.
I'm not trying to knock the mayor, but we all know that the plane went down. We don't need the mayor to get up out of her bed to come down to tell us that there has been a confirmed airplane crash. Did anybody else find that comical? I'm not trying to knock the mayor, but man, like I wish she would have provided some real update. It's like, hey, we confirmed that the plane crashed. Hey, no shit. Like we saw parts of the plane like miles away. We know the plane crashed. Everyone and their mom knows the plane crashed. She did indicate that folks should stay away from the airplane debris. Basically, this is a massive accident scene that I guess the police and investigators, the FBI, the FAA, the NTSB, they're all trying to keep folks away from the debris because it's all evidence to try to piece together what might have actually happened here. But it's like, man, come on, dude. I know it's a woman, but still, they indicated that, and they were saying that, this is a residential area. This is a residential area, ladies and gentlemen. So, yeah, absolutely wild scene here. Wild scene. I am absolutely going to keep up on this one. There's a lot more to this story than what we're being told here, ladies and gentlemen. I already know it. You know it. If you haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Check out